Hello, my name is Geoff Kersey, and in this little scene of a bridge in Derbyshire, I'm going to show you quite a few lessons. The main thing really is to get the shape of the bridge correct and to get that feeling of texture in the stonework. And I have taken a bit of time to draw the subject out first to make sure that I've got the perspective and all the angles correct. The first thing to do is to put a bit of masking fluid on. I'm going to wet the masking fluid brush and just rub it on a bar of soap. This little trick helps to keep the brush clean, and it means that it doesn't get all gummed up with masking fluid and unusable. And the first place I'm going to put this is across the top of the bridge to pick out the bridge from all the foliage and the sky behind it. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit along here at the water's edge, and then for the foreground, before I put the masking fluid on, I'm going to take a number 10 brush charged up with clean water and just wet the foreground area with clean water. And then I'm going to immediately drop the masking fluid into that. And it's quite an interesting effect, this, because it means that rather than getting a hard line for the foreground, I get a mark that emphasises the reeds and grasses and the weeds in the foreground. Almost as though I was dropping paint in. I'm treating the masking fluid just like I would paint. Okay, now that's the masking fluid on. That will take a few moments to dry before we can do the next stage. So now that the masking fluid's dried, I've squeezed out the colours I'm going to use for this painting. I'm just using 8 different colours, and I'll start with my number 16 brush, a good brush full of water, and we'll mix a pale blue for the sky with cobalt blue and a little touch of rose madder just to warm it slightly. Now I'm going to transfer to the number 10 brush and take a bit of lemon yellow. Just lemon yellow with a touch of water. That will mix in with the blue of the sky to give me a really bright green. The next one is Oriolin, a really nice, clean, transparent yellow, excellent for making greens. And to make that into a nice, bright summer green, I'm just adding a little bit of cobalt blue. To break it up, I'm going to take a little bit of raw sienna with a little bit of burnt sienna added to it. Quite a bit of water in that one. And the final colour for this background is a really rich dark green, and I'm going to mix this with 3 colours, Viridian, ultramarine blue, and then to calm that down and darken it at the same time, I'm going to add burnt sienna. And it's that red in the burnt sienna that neutralises the green and darkens it at the same time. The next stage now is to take a large number 16 wash brush and wet the whole background above the bridge with clean water, making sure it's evenly wet right the way down through the sky area. You don't need to worry about being too accurate. That's why the masking fluid's there. Now straight away I'm going to dip that brush in that mixture of cobalt blue and rose madder and just indicate a glimpse of sky in the background. Don't need to be too accurate or careful with that. It's just a sort of backdrop to the whole scene. Okay, now I'm going to take a number 8 brush and get some of that lemon yellow and start to drop a bit of that in to represent some distant trees and bushes. Got to work quite rapidly at this wet in wet stage because the paper's drying all the time. Bringing that right down to the masking fluid at the top of the bridge. Now with the number 12 brush and the stronger green, this is the mixture of Oriolin and cobalt blue. Again, coming right down to the top of the bridge. It's just a loose backdrop to the scene. We don't need to spend a lot of time on this stage because that wet in wet effect is all important. And then picking up a bit more of that purpley blue from the sky. Work a bit of that in so that the green becomes a bit greyer further away. And then still with the number 12 brush, I'm getting a good brush full of the Viridian, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna to give me that dark green behind the bridge. It's important to get this nice rich dark in because it'll give me a dark colour behind the stonework, and I can really go to town on making the stonework look bright with this dark rich green behind it. I'm going to darken that green a bit more with a touch more burnt sienna. Just work that in, still working rapidly to take advantage of the wet background. Rather than trying to paint careful trees, I'm just getting that sort of suggestion of them. And finally for this stage, I'm taking a detailer brush and I've got some neat lemon yellow on it, and I'm just putting a few suggestions of leaves and foliage with this neat lemon yellow, and then I'm picking up some of the raw sienna and burnt sienna and dropping a bit of that in as well to create that touch of variety. Right, so we now need to let that wet in wet stage dry. So now that the background's dried, we'll just put this tree in that you can glimpse the other side of the bridge. I've already got some raw sienna and burnt sienna, which I'm going to use on the tree. So I just need one other colour, which is cobalt blue and rose madder. The colour I used in the sky, but thicker this time, less water in it, and I'm adding a bit of burnt sienna to that. So with the large detailer brush, I've got the raw sienna and burnt sienna, and I'm going to start painting that onto the trunk, working my way up, gradually getting the trunk to look thinner as it gets higher and disappears out of the top of the scene. Then straight away I'm going in with that purpley brown mixture and dropping that down the right hand side. The light is coming from the left, so the right hand side of the trunk is the darker colour, that's the shadow area. Now I'm putting in a few branches. Not too much detail on this because it's very much in the background. I'm going to get a touch more of the raw sienna and burnt sienna to help it to merge. And a bit of the green I used earlier, this is the Oriolin and Cobalt Blue, to soften the tree into the background a bit down there. And now I'm picking up a detailer brush. And I need to mix just a touch more of that cobalt blue, rose madder and burnt sienna, a little bit thicker this time, a little bit stronger. And I just need to carry on now taking these branches across the scene, keeping them really fine. I've got a few pencil marks, as you can see, that's just giving me an idea for the shape, and I'm just roughly following those marks. The key to it is to do these fairly quickly. I often think you can see a stroke in a watercolour that's been done quickly and with some confidence. It always looks more convincing. There's a few branches and twigs coming in from this left hand side, and that's that stage completed.